Snowed Up by Edwin Waugh, narrated by Malc Cowle. Chapter 3. Let us rouse the night owl with a catch. Shakespeare. Come, I'll see how neat's getting on outside, said the landlord, and rising from his chair he went to the door and looked out. The storm was as wild as ever. The snow was piled against the door, and the wintry gust blew the chill drift into the lobby. I'll e'en shut it out, said he, pushing the door to again, and walking back into the kitchen. It's as bad as ever, said he, as he took his seat again. There'll be no coaches here to-morn, if it keeps on this way all night, and I think it gets worse. Well, that's a capper, said the landlady. It's true, replied he. There's no sort of wheeled carriages can get o'er Blackstone Edge in this snow. How mun I get home? Said the sexton. Thou mun try to make thyself a home where thou art, till we find a decent sort of a gate for thee, our lad, replied the landlord, slapping him on the knee. Come, continued he, it's no use pulling long faces. I think this house's allowed out till storm's over, and you're welcome to what there is, as long as it lasts. I cannot say fairer. Come, let's make best on it. Come, Sam, canna thee give us a bit of a ditty? I'm no singer, replied Sam. I've heard thou make din enough sometimes at Todmorden Fair, said the landlord. Well, it has been a din then, replied the quarryman, but no singing. Try, mon, try, said the landlord, and then we can judge for ourselves. Well, replied the quarryman, if you win have it, I'll try an odd verse, and then you'll see. Do our lad, said the landlord, it'll show willing, if it does not else. Here goes then, replied the quarryman. Of all the brave birds I ever did see, the owl is the best in every degree, for all the day long she sits in a tree, and when the night comes away flies she. Sing ginger and sugar, nutmeg and cloves, where didst thou get that jolly red nose? Stop, stop, cried the landlord, don't go no further. Thou's done quite enough, if that's a sample. Thou's spoken truth for once, our lad. Thou canna sing. Didn't I tell you, said the quarryman. Thou did, our lad, and I believe thou now, by mon, thou'rt worse nor any owl that ever I heard in my life. Isna but middling for sure, said the old pedlar. Middling, replied the landlord. It made me ears stop of an end like a lot of card teeth. Quarter of an hour of that mac a singing would turn thale sour. Don't do no more, I pray thou. Tell us a tale instead. Aught'll do. I told you, didn't I? Said the quarryman again. Thou did, replied the landlord. Thou did. Dinna begin again. Well, let somebody else have a turn, said the quarryman, laughing. They canna do so much worse, that's one comfort. No, they canna, replied the landlord. If they done, I'm off out of this house as cold as need is. Here, continued he, turning to the sexton. We're forgetting thee, Dan. There's some notes in thou. Come, pipe up. Thou'rt an old hand. I'm willing, said the sexton. Get a gate then, said the landlord. The sexton drank and laid his glass down, and when he'd taken a long-drawn pinch of snuff, he began an old song, which he'd chanted many a time to a set of choice comrades at the old Golden Ball, below the church steps in Rochdale. It was a love song, but as this narrator can't sing, I won't bother the reader with it, because it was rather a long one. Eventually, the sexton finished. There, said the sexton, my song's ended. And it's a good un too, said the landlord. Thou's just brought me round after that terrible skrike of Sam's about Thowle. If I'd gone to bed with that din in me ears, I should have been ill in morning. Come, here's else a piece. Now, Sam, continued he, addressing the quarryman, Cannot thou tell us another bit of a tale? Is there naught about turvin that they can give us? Didn't ye ever hear of Amos o' Copperknobs and his potatoes? Said the quarryman. Let's have it, said the sexton. I get a gate, said the landlord. It'll be somewhat queer, I doubt, said the old pedlar, with a quiet grin upon his face. Nay, there's not much in it, said the quarryman, but it shows like what sort of farming there used to be in Turvin. It seems that one Todmorden Fair, 2 Clitheroe farmers were fractioning in Thwitart about which of 'em had grown biggest potatoes that year. And one said his were this size, and t'other said his were that size. And Harry, at Goxholm, had been sitting in Newt hearting to 'em, till he couldn't bide a minute longer, about putting his motty in. So he jumped up, and he said there were a chap in Turvin that had grown potatoes that year 5 times as big as either of theirs. Name him, cried the farmers. Amos o' Copperknobs up in Turvin, said Harry. He's grown potatoes 5 times as big as either on you. I'll bet you 2 to 1 on it. 2 of what? Said one of the farmers. 2 penny muffins to half a sovereign, said Harry. Talk to some sense, and I'll see what I can do without, said farmer. Well, I'll bet an even 10 shilling then, said Harry. Done, cried the farmer, and they staked their brass. Well, in a bit these farmers went outside, and Harry heard 'em talking together under the window. And chap that had bet 10 shilling towed t'other that he intended to slip up into Turvin next day and have a look at these big potatoes, and if tale proved true, he tried to get his brass back afore the bet was settled, and he could happen make a bit of summat out of somebody else, for he was sure nobody would believe it. Thought Harry to hisself, I'll slip up into Turvin too, old lad, and see what I can do. And the first thing next morning away went Harry up into Turvin's kloof to see old Amos, and he told him what a fool of a bet he'd made. Now, Amos, said Harry, thou sees how it is. He's coming up to look at these potatoes to morn. Make 'em as big as ever thou can, but whatever thou does, dinna let him see 'em. I'll manage him, said Amos. Well, farmer comes up to see Amos same day, and he said, I hear you and grown some good-sized potatoes upon this side this year. Can you let me look at 'em? Well, no, said Amos, I canna. They're of a mat that never was seen in this country afore, and we're keeping 'em out of sight at present. But are you wanting to buy some? Well, aye, said farmer. I would like to try 'em. How many do you want? Said Amos. Well, about a stone. That is 14 pounds. 6 kilograms and a bit for the modern listener. Just to see what they're like. A stone, cried Amos. I'll never cut into one of yon potatoes for the sake of selling a stone. Well, that killed the farmer's pig at one stroke, and he come off with his underlip hanging down. He never asked for his 10 shilling back, and for a good while after that, Harry went bit name a Turvin lumper. By mass, that men's knowin' Sam, said the landlord, when the quarryman had finished. No, said the sexton, he's somewhere about Thowbat for sure. Poor old Amos, said the landlady. He's had fearful trouble with his family. That's how this son of his come to a terrible end. How were that? Said the sexton. Well, replied the landlady, about 20 years sin, Amos kept th'oud alehouse down in bottom of Turvin Clough, and th'oud his son were a rackety sort of a lad, and he did nowt but drink and mauder about countryside, wi' all mats of sleeveless wastrels that he could lead on. At last he disappeared all at once, and day after day went by, and they couldn't have a year top the tail of this lad. Just about same time, they lost a keg of rum out at cellar, but that didn't trouble 'em much, for they were middling well to do, at that time o' day. But time kept going on, and neither lad nor rum turned up. At last, when about 3 weeks had gone by, the gamekeeper found him in a hole upon moorside, lying cowed and stiff by its side at Rumkeg. "That's true, mistress," said the quarryman. "I've heard same tale mony a time. His mother never looked up after it." "Joe," said the quarryman, "didn't you ever hear tell of how Quifter and Billy Nutkin playing ghost in Ripponden churchyard?" "I don't remember," replied the landlord. "Let's have it." "Well," said the quarryman, "Quifter and Billy were old cronies, and they were always up to some mack o' witless marlocks, particularly when they had a jill or two. Well, as they come maundering out at public house at side o' church one winter's night, about 9 o'clock, Nutkin looked up at churchyard and he said, 'Billy, it's too soon to go home. Let's have a go at boggarting. Go thee and borrow 2 sheets and 2 white neat caps, and we and see if we're going to stir some of these sleepy bousty heads up a bit as they walk 'em by.' So Billy get these sheets and neat caps, and they rigged themselves up in a nook at churchyard, and then they come to the side at wall, where the road goes by, and they couched down and looked out for squalls. In a bit, a drunken chap come creeping by in dark, singing to himself. 'Let's try him,' said Nutkin. 'Go on then,' said Quifter. And as he come nigh, they began a moaning and rising up and then sinking down again, first one and then t'other. 'What the hectom is there agate now?' said chap, looking up at churchyard. But when he see these 2 white things popping up and down, he took to his heels through-fouled like a red shank, and he spread news far and wide that he seen 2 ghosts in churchyard. Then there were a lad come back churchyard whistling and jingling some brass in a tin can. Up went Nutkin in his white, and down went Quifter, and first glance that lad gave at these 2 things, he dropped his can and off he went, skriking like mad. They saw some more folk same way as they went by. But in a bit, folk began a coming out of their houses with leaks in their hands, for th' whole town were rising, and 4 or 5 on 'em that were bowder than t'other went o'er into churchyard with pokers and things in their hands. So Billy and Quifter had to cut. Quifter threw his sheet and neat cap off and crept at the back of a tombstone, till he managed to fall in among those that were after ghost. But Nutkin kept his sheet and cap on, and slipped into a new-made grave, out at gate, and there he lay all of a tremble. Well, it were as dark as pitch, and as these chaps went prowling up and down yards, swearing what they'd do at this ghost, Joan and Nancy's fell slap in this open grave. In he went, head first, with a poker in his hand, and he alight his sock on top of old Nutkin, with his white sheep and neat cap on, and they fell to a clouting one another like mad. 'I have it,' cried Joan. 'Bring a leak, bring a leak.' 'Bring a leak,' cried those at top. 'Joan and Nancy's and ghost a feeding in a grave.' And when the leak come, Joan cried out, 'By mass, it's Nutkin. Rive him out.' 'Tan his hide,' says another. 'I thought it were a rough ghost,' said Joan, wiping his nose. Well, Nutkin begged on 'em to let him off, and they did do in a bit. But they tore his white sheet into ribbons, and they made him ate his neat cap. And there never were no poor ghost in this world ever went home with sorer bones than that ghost had, for they humoured him soundly. And ever since that night, our Nutkin's gone by name at Ripponden Ghost." "He'd has spoken again, our lad," said the landlord. "Did ever anybody hear of such foolish pranks among grown-up men?" said the landlady. "I call it babbywork," said the old pedlar. "Well, don't let's begin a preaching about it," replied the landlord. It would be a queer world if folk were o' its solemn side out. Here, said the sexton, taking a pinch of snuff, I think I can tell you a bit of a story about a grave too. That'll do, said the landlord. It's just in thy line. Well, said the sexton, I've seen some strange marlocks about yon old church of ours at Rochdale. I dare say that's how, lad, replied the landlord. Come, let's have this tale. I hope it'll be to more sense than last were, said the landlady. Oh, let it leet as what it is, cried the landlord. Well, I'll see what I can do, replied the sexton, and he took 2 or 3 hearty pinches of snuff.